Hello and welcome to a new series of After Effects tutorials. My name is Arnold Falder and I would like to invite you to join me exploring the possibilities of Adobe After Effects 2020. This is a basic tutorial starting from the very beginning, but we will hopefully reach some interesting topics for the more advanced audience soon. So stay tuned and make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new releases. I'm using After Effects 2020, the Creative Cloud in its current version, but even if you have a different version of After Effects, you will be able to join the techniques that I'm demonstrating. For the first few lessons, you only need a couple of random video clips, so take your smartphone, your DSLR, or whatever device you have to record, and record a couple of 10-second clips. It's not really important that they are exactly 10 seconds long. That is just a convenient length to work with. I would like to ask you to explore also the video quality settings of your camera. Make sure to try different video sizes, frame rate settings, maybe bit rates, file formats, or even audio settings. If you're not quite sure how that can be adjusted in your camera, search for the camera's name on YouTube and I'm sure someone will explain the video settings in great detail to you. So let's get started with part one of our After Effects tutorial. So over here is the welcome screen, the home screen of After Effects. So right now I am closing it and I would like to show you the two possibilities to start working with After Effects. The first thing is to create a new composition from scratch with all the settings that can be adjusted, or the second possibility is to start a composition from an already existing footage. And this is where I want you to take one of the 10-second clips that you recorded and start a new composition with one of those footage files. So you go to new composition from footage and you pick one of your 10-second clips. And that brings us to our user interface of After Effects. The default user interface of After Effects looks something like this. If you by accident adjust it in a way that you cannot work anymore, so I just moved a few things, maybe closed a panel and got rid of something else. So if you want to anytime go back to the default that we started with, you can go to Window Workspace, and you will find this is the default workspace that we're working in. And the workspace default can also be reset. So you go to Reset, Default Workspace, and you will start in this way. Let's have a look. On the left side is the project window that kind of contains all the clips, all the assets, all the elements that you have in your composition. You have video clips, you will have pictures, maybe text elements, adjustment layers, shapes, all kinds of things go in here, or even audio can go in there. Then on the other, then the middle, the most important one, the editing window. So your composition window that shows you how your composition looks right now. Here it says this is a composition window. Sometimes there can also be a different movie clip open in the same window. For example, if I double click here, it says my movie was called Train. That is the movie clip file, and this is the composition that I'm watching right now. So if I am double clicking the original Train footage file, then you see you will have two pieces open in your window, either the composition, what you did to it, and the original footage file. You can close the footage file, but do not close the composition window. If you accidentally close, you can double click it over here. Then on the right side, you will get all kinds of information and also elements that we're going to use. For example, one thing that is important here is the preview, which allows you to playback your video clip. So here's a play forward, backward, previous frame, and so on. So you can move around. Usually, when you hit play, it is running in real time. If it's not possible to run in real time, you will see it. It will say not real time, and it will also skip a lot, and it will give you bad video quality. One thing that I forgot, above the project window is some information about the clip that you have selected. So when you select this one clip here, for example, you can see the most important information. For example, the video size. It's a full HD 1920 by 1080 with a pixel aspect ratio of 1. That means every tiny little pixel is a square. In video, there's not a must. You can also have different pixel aspect ratios. It has a length of 9 seconds and 24 frames. That is almost it's almost of 10 seconds because it is a 25 frames per second base. So it's based on a 25 frames per second, and see, it's 9 seconds plus almost another second. Lots of colors, millions of colors. The H.264 is the compression codec, and here's also the audio. The audio is not really important here, but it is basically the horn of the train and then a really loud noise. So we don't use the audio here. And the bottom window is your timeline, and your timeline allows you to work with your video clip. There's one thing that should not confuse you, that might look a little different in your version, and that is, here's by the way, there's my time indicator. This is the point of time that I'm using right now. And the only thing is, mine here does not start at 0, but usually it starts at 0 and it will go all the way till 10 seconds if it's 10 seconds long. If you need more, you can always get more and so on. But for right now, it's 10 seconds, but it doesn't start at 10 seconds. The reason is my video that I have used, I cut it out of a larger piece. So I cut it out of a piece that is longer, so that means that there are actually 5 seconds before that I recorded, and when I cut it out, it still kept the old time base, and that's why it still has these different numbers. But it's starting at 5 seconds 22 something, and it goes all the way till 15. Okay, so it's 10 seconds long, and then you can see the one layer that we're using right now, and that is the video train. So all the other elements, pictures, text, graphics, animation adjustments will all be placed here in the timeline. So how are we working with After Effects? So the first thing is you need to know, here's the play button, so you have the possibility to play and stop. You can also play the video by moving it in the time indicator. You will notice that by moving it in the time indicator, you do not hear the audio. When you hit play, you hear the audio. I turned it off before. When you move it with the time indicator, you don't hear the audio. That is quite helpful for any colleagues in the same room and so on. But if you want to hear the audio, you can also hold down your control key on your keyboard. So when I hold the control key and move the audio, I can hear, I move the time slider, you can hear the audio. I'm turning my audio off again. So that is the time slider and how to play it. The next thing is, what are the parameters for this one clip that is in my composition? So my composition right now only holds one clip. If I open up the train, the layer in front, you can see that it has an audio and it has all kinds of transform settings. When I open transform, you can see it mostly has to do with position on screen or on the video. It has to do with scale, so with size, with rotation, and maybe opacity, so transparency. So those settings, let's quickly adjust them once. The first thing is, I'm going to start with scale, because once when we change scale, we can see how the video is embedded in our total composition. So I'm going to take this video, I'm not going to change the composition scale, I'm just going to change the one video that I put into my composition. So I'm going to change scale and reduce it. Right now it's 100%, so I'm just going to scaling it smaller. Let's go for 50%, so half the size. When you change it to half the size, you can already see this is the size of my total composition, which was the same before, and now here is the video. That means now that I can change either my position on screen by changing position or by grabbing it in the window and move it to a different location. The first part here, anchor point, and the anchor point refers to, and you can see this is 1920 by 1080, only half. This is the anchor point on the video. The video itself, the video clip, is 1920 by 1080, so the anchor point is in the middle and in the middle vertical. So that is the anchor point. And the position refers to the position of the anchor point on screen. So where is this point in the middle in reference to the whole screen? So when I, for example, bring my anchor point to 0, 0, that means now my anchor point is in the top left corner of the video. That means now the position, wherever I place it, will be referring to this anchor point. So if I also bring position to 0, 0, so just click in and type 0, tab 0, then of course the top left corner of the video will be in the top left corner of the composition. Also, if I change my size now, you will notice that all the scaling, the center of all the scaling, will be the anchor point. So if I scale it now, you can see it will be scaled from the top left corner, not of the composition, but of this little video clip. So the video clip will now be scaled up and down from its top left corner. Let me show the same thing here in the middle, then you can see it. So scaling, and now it will be scaled up and down from its top left corner. Rotation is, I think, pretty clear. It now rotates around the anchor point. The anchor point, top left corner. A positive rotation, in this case, is clockwise. A negative rotation is counterclockwise. That's not the usual way that it's done in graphics. Usually it's the other way around, but here it is positive rotation clockwise and negative counterclockwise. What means the 0 here in the front? It means one whole circle. So this is the degrees, and then if you type 1, then it will be like rotating 360 degrees plus 29 degrees more. Okay. Of course, if you want to reset it, you always just type in 0 in here, or you can also reset all the transformation. Here's a reset button, but that will reset all the transformation. And the last thing is its opacity. So when a video is opaque, that means it's not transparent at all. So you cannot see through it. The background is always black, but you can put different layers on top. So the opacity here, if I'm gonna take it to 50, for example, then it looks like as if the video is only getting darker, but actually it is not getting darker, it's getting transparent and it's mixing with the black background, so it looks like as if it's getting darker. We can easily try that by using the same video a second time. So here's my timeline, here's my train video. If I take the train video and pull it down one more time, here it's below. So that means the stack of layers is always red from the top. What is top will be seen. And you can see that the transparent layer on top, which I changed the transparency to 50, is on top. And if I play with it now, you can see if there's some transparency, kind of mixes with the layer in the background. I'm going to leave my transparency to 100 so it's not that confusing. Every layer can be turned visible or invisible. That is just makes it easier for you to work with. Every layer can be muted. So if the audio is getting annoying or you don't want the audio of a certain layer, you can mute it with this button here. The different options here, rotation, position, and so on, there is a keyboard shortcut for all that. Let me remove the layer on the bottom, so we just have our first layer here. For example, if you want to change the position, you can hit P, and it will give you the value for position. That is the same thing as if you would open it, and then open transform and go to position. So with P for position, you can open position, and one more time P it closes it again. Why am I showing you this? Because in a more complex composition later on, you will have maybe 20 of those layers, and you will have to scroll up and down so many layers you have. So that means to make things simpler, you don't want to open up all these different points. You want to keep them collapsed, and whenever you need one specific, you just type in the first letter of the word. For example, P for position, S for scale. What else do we have? A for anchor point. What do we have? Scale, rotation, R for rotation. And here's the one exception to the rule, and that is opacity is not O, but T, like for transparency. So if you want to change the transparency, you hit T, and you will open opacity, and one more time T, it will close again. The good thing is if you have two layers here and you select all two layers, so first layer, shift, second layer, and now you hit T, it opens both opacities, and T closes both opacities, okay? Good. So let's kick out. Okay, if you want to delete a layer, then you can simply hit select it and hit delete. Now let's try something. I'm going to take my first layer, which is called train. By the way, you can anytime rename it by hitting enter. So you select the layer, hit enter, and call it first layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm not dragging in another train video, but I'm duplicating this one. So to duplicate a layer, there's a shortcut that's Control D. But you could also, let me get rid of this. You can also do a copy paste. So Control C, Control V, that will give you a copy. Or obviously you can also do a right click and find somewhere. I'm sure that there is a duplicate layer somewhere. No, it's not. Maybe layer here somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm always using Control D. So select it, and Control D will give you a duplicate. The duplicate, to rename it, simply hit enter and hit second layer. Second layer, I'm going to put it in the back. So now the two layers are on top of each other, and I'm going to move the second layer to a different place. So this is moving. What did I change by moving it to a different location? I just changed the second layer's P for position. So now it has a different position. Everything else is the same. Now I would like to show you something, and that is moving the layer in time. And you will notice in the timeline in the bottom there is those two mountains that allows you to zoom in or zoom out. So currently my timeline ends somewhere here at 15, which is actually 10 seconds. But if I move my timeline a little bit, the second one, a little bit further, you notice that the train goes backwards. It doesn't go backwards, but it starts later. So while the first movie starts here, the second movie does not. So see, if I move the layer in time, before the layer actually starts, it's not visible. So you can see the first layer starts, the locomotive comes in, and then the second layer is visible from this point on. So I can just move it in time, and that means the two will run at different times there. Also at the end of our clip, and what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to change my composition settings. So right now my composition has been made for this first video clip. When I said clip by composition by footage, and the footage was 10 seconds long, so that means my composition is also 10 seconds long. To change the composition that we already have, you can either do it here, it's the composition, it's called train. You can do a right click on it and find composition settings. Or here in the timeline, right click, composition settings. That will give you the settings that you would have gotten in the very beginning when you would have not chosen a composition by footage. those would be the questions that you would have asked. Size, frame rate, starting time code, ending time code, blah, 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 and so on. So what I'm going to change is I'm going to change the length of my composition. Let me first fix this. That was what I said automatically came because I've chosen it out of different movies. I'm going to turn the beginning of the time code to 00. 0000, and the duration, let me get that to 20 seconds. 20 seconds and no frames, so get it exactly 20 seconds long. So now my timeline down here is 20 seconds long. That means as we now just see this part, we can use those little mountains and zoom out, and now you see it starts at 0 and it ends at 20 seconds. When you zoom in, it will give you more details on how many frames and so on. But you see, I can move the layer in time, so it means it starts later. What I can also do is, and let me make another copy of this one. I'm gonna duplicate it again, bring it to the bottom, enter to rename, and call it a third layer. Call it third layer, and the third layer I'm gonna place here. So the third layer, I'm not going to let it start at the later, but I'm gonna let it start like a little bit earlier between the two layers, but this time I'm going to take it, I'm not going to move the whole clip alone, but I'm just moving the beginning, like to here. So you not only can move it in time, the whole clip, but you can also take the starting point or the end point, I don't know exactly what it's called, the beginning, and move it backwards. It means the video starts here at this point, but it's not visible because it will only be visible from this point on. So it means from the moment it comes on, it has already been started and has already been running for like 3 seconds or so. So this controls the visibility of the video. It starts here, but it is only visible starting at this point. By the way, if you want to make them align, if you want those videos to be visible at the same point, you can align it by holding the Shift key. So when you move something, you will notice, or even the time slider, it will not snap to anything. But if you hold the Shift key, it snaps to beginnings of videos, it snaps to the beginning of the whole composition, or it snaps to this the starting of the visibility. So you can also take this element here and move it, and with Shift, for example, it will snap. So now they start precisely at the same time, but this video is already advanced 2 seconds or so, because it actually starts here. And the same thing can be done at the end. So at the end, the video ends here, but it's not visible anymore. That's the last time it's visible is here. Okay? Is that the difference clear? So right now, we're not going to changing anything in speed. It's just when it's visible and when not. Okay? And now, those things that we did, let me get rid of those 2 layers. I just want to play with one. Now, I would like to show you how to start animating things in After Effects. And basically, every value that is placed somewhere can somehow be animated by hand, automatically, and so on, or linking it to other things and helping objects and so on. But for right now, I want to show you the basics of keyframe animation. And keyframe animation means I'm going to create for a certain movement or a certain change of values. I'm going to do it with movement. I'm going to create keyframes that define the movement, and the computer is doing all the steps in between. So right now, my animation goes from 0 to 10. And I would like to change its position. And the way it's done is you first find the value that you want to animate. In this case, I'm hitting P for position, because this is what I'm going to animate. I'm going to the start of my animation, and then here it is this little stopwatch. And when you hold your mouse on it, will say that you say stopwatch, and it's a possibility to turn animation on and off. If you click on, then the but the stopwatch will be blue, and it means from now on this value is animated, and where you clicked it on, you created a keyframe. That means the position of the video is stored right here. So at this point in time, at 0, you stored the position. Now let's go like something like 2 frames ahead. That's not precise. 2 frames ahead. Now I move it to a different position, and just by changing something, it automatically records a keyframe. So recording a keyframe can be either done. The first one will be recorded when you turn it on. The second one will be either recorded by changing something, in this case changing the position. If you change something else, that won't work. Only position is ready for animation. So changing the position will record its end position. So let's do it one more time. Bring it here and change it. That records the new position. You can already see the position change is shown here as a trajectory, as a line where the position walks. Those little dots are the frames. The denser the dots, the slower the movement is. If they are further away, then it's a faster movement. So you can record either a keyframe by changing something. Let's do this for the rest of my animation. So I'm going a couple frames forward. That would be going there, then one more time here, and then at the very end, I'm using Shift again to find precisely the end of the animation. At the end, it's here. Why did the beginning of the path get lost? That is just a setting so that not all the animation is shown. When you move it backwards, you can see more of the path. So here's my first animation. This animation is stored with those 6 keyframes. Don't make the mistakes and click the stopwatch again, because if you click it, that will delete all the animation. It will not keep it. So how can I add another keyframe that's not at the beginning or at the end? So let's say somewhere in between. So let's say maybe here. You can also create a keyframe by changing something. So I can drag the time to this point and then change the position of the picture, or I can also manually add a keyframe or even remove a keyframe. I can remove ones that are already created. I can manually add it by clicking on this little icon, and that means now here I have an additional keyframe. Those keyframes can be also selected and moved in time, so the same position but only a little bit earlier, a little bit later. That is, if I move it in time, the position does not change, only it happens earlier or later. And what's also quite handy when you have an animation with a lot of keyframes, you also can use those 2 arrows to jump to the next, to the next, to the next, or to the previous, to the previous, to the previous keyframe. Because in order to change a keyframe, you have to be precisely on it. Remember, Shift will help you to snap on those keyframes, but if you accidentally are 1 frame next to it, you will not overwrite the existing keyframe, but you will create a new one right next to it, and that will like totally mess it up. So to make sure that you're on, either move the time slider with Shift and it will snap to the keyframes, or you use those little arrow keys to jump to the first, to the next, and so on. So let's say I want to delete this keyframe here in the middle. I can either move my time slider with Shift snap on it, or I can move it with the arrow keys. And now if I click this button, it will, in this case, remove it, because there is already one. Remove the keyframe. You can also remove the keyframe by selecting it. You don't have to be on it actually, just select the keyframe and hit delete. That will delete this single keyframe. Okay, so that is a simple ways to create keyframes. So keys can be moved in time. They can also be copied. For example, if you want to take this key here, move to this key, then select the key, hit copy, go a little bit later, hit paste. That means I copied, this is the same key, I copied it in time. that means that I get the same key 2 times. They are both smooth Bezier curves, so that's why I have this weird back and forward movement. So if I don't want it, I move my time slider to the key and hit delete, and that will delete the key. Okay, so that is a simple way to create keyframe animation. In this tutorials that about After Effects, we're gonna create keyframe animations over and over again. So if it doesn't work right now, don't be frustrated. Just practice it, repeat, watch the part again where I've shown it, and I'm sure you will master it soon. We will use it on text elements, on graphic elements, on different videos, and all kinds of adjustment. But for right now, I would like to show you come to an end, and I would like to show you how to export what you have just created. We just created the video that is moving around in an S-curve. The video starts at the beginning, and it's here. So my total composition is 20 seconds long, but I have actually only used 10 seconds. So what I want, before I'm going to export it, I'm going to save it. I have not saved it yet. It's an unsaved, so I'm going for Save As. The After Effects file is really small because it only contains what I did with the videos. It's not containing the video itself, the footage, only what I did with it. So it's a really small file. But now I'm going to export it into a new video that is 10 seconds long, and it has this little video moving around in an S-curve. So the best way that I usually do it is I use this part here. That is my work area. So if you haven't noticed, below the numbers here, there's a gray bar. If you don't see the gray bar, just zoom out to the total animation length. You can also double click the gray bar, then it will automatically jump to your composition length, or in this case to the visible length here. But you can also take the end point of my work area and move it in. Remember, when you move it, Shift key helps you to snap precisely to the end. The beginning, I don't need to snap because it is already at 0, 0. So that is my work area. And now when I'm going to export it, I need to go to File, Export, and use the Export Adobe Media Encoder queue. You can also use the render queue directly from After Effects, but all the good codices are usually hidden in the Adobe Media Encoder queue. So add Adobe Media Encoder. That will take a second because I'm starting the Media Encoder. So there it is. And in the Media Encoder, we are having the export already in. I'm sorry, it's German. I'm gonna show you what it says. So here it says all the queues, Warteschlange, the queues, and we already have our video included into the queue. All I need to do is I'm gonna check the settings. So by clicking on it, it will give you a warning. So, sorry for that. It will open the export settings from After Effects. Again, that is stupid because it's German. Here it is again. The format is the same format that my footage file has. We're going to use an H.264, and the presets that I'm using are all the way down, and I'm using YouTube 1080p Full HD settings. That is the best settings for the video that I have. So H.264 and YouTube Full HD 1080p all the way down there. The rest you don't need to pay attention to those because it's all in the preset. Only you need to tell him where to place the file, and I'm going to call it export MP4. So now you hit OK, and here's the queue I have updated. So it updated the position where to place it. It defined what kind of presets we're using, and then you just hit play, or it's it's going through the timeline, through the queue, and exporting the video that I have defined. It usually makes a sound like whoop or something like this, and then it's done. Let's have a look at the video that I just exported. Let me quickly start it up under Documents, and then under the Untitled project. Here it is. Export. Let me stop it. I'm gonna get the video in half size so that it better fits. Here it is. That's the VLC player, and there it is. So the video where the one video is in an S-curve. Okay, that's it so far. I hope that gave you a good impression of the user interface and a few hints about how to work in After Effects. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to hit like if you did. If you missed anything, put it in the comments, and I'm sure I will cover it in one of the next lessons. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.